Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. Another episode of Champion Standard. He's Rob. I'm Brad. Uh, Gonna dive into a few more topics this week. We have a little spring sports, of course. We're going to talk about today. Of course, softball taking precedence, like always. Dive in a little bit to some recruiting news on the front, and then we've got a little uh, NIL this week, transitioning over to possibly CBA, a little more like the NFL. So we'll dive into that. And then we're going to wrap it up today with a little kind of early spreads for the upcoming football season, I guess you could say. So we'll go into some of the lines that we have on either OU, some of the specific games or total wins or whatever. So, yeah, Rob, I guess it's Memorial Weekend. So, everybody, whatever your normal plans are on Memorial Weekend, going out to grave sites or whatever, just make sure you to do that in a good way this weekend, whatever that is. So, um, moving over to spring sports down at OU. Let's kind of start with the baseball team here a second. Um, they wrapped up the Big 12 tournament over the weekend. Unfortunately, lost to the Cowboys. Both of them are having great seasons right now, and um, they're actually both hosting a regional this coming weekend, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
OU hasn't hosted a regional in a long time. I don't remember, but it's been a while.
Wow.
Uh, I think they're the ninth seed. OSU's like the 11th or 12th seed. So if they win their regional this weekend, which is always challenging, there's a lot of good teams around the country. If they do win their regional, they'll go to super regionals, and it's a lot like softball. So the top 8 seeds get to host super regionals, and so OU just fell right outside that mark at 9. So they'll have to play
Yeah.
the 8 seed if they end up winning, and not sure who OSU plays, but yeah, postseason's here for the baseball team. So I'm hoping they can roll through like the ladies have been rolling through. On that note, the ladies won their super regional over Florida State. They won that. You know, they didn't have to go to a third game, which was nice. Those are always nerve wracking.
Right.
So they took care of business and wrapped that up on Friday. Won the first game 11-3 pretty comfortably. Second game not so comfortable. They ended up winning 4-2, kind of a pitcher's duel. Florida State was just throwing every pitcher, of course, they had there since it
Yep.
was an elimination game for them.
Right.
And then Jada Coleman was up to her old tricks again, robbing someone of another home run. She's a highlight reel, man.
She is, man. Like her eyes were closed. She went into it and reached.
Yeah,
Her eyes were and just like felt it. It was like almost like the angel in the outfield moment where she was
yeah,
being carried by Angel's wings right to the ball. I was like,
yeah,
wow, that's incredible.
yeah. Now she knew that wall was there, so I think you squint a little bit, getting ready
Right.
to take the hit, and just hope you can get it in your glove. And she did it again. Yeah, um, yeah. She's usually good for them. Excuse me. One of those a series. So,
Right.
so they moved on. Um, they moved on along with OSU. It's heading to Oklahoma City. I think it'd be kind of cool here this last season in the Big 12 for there to be a bedlam.
Mm. Ooh,
I'm kind of,
spicy.
yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. How
That's
does
but
how does the bracket look? I know they've got Duke, right?
yeah. So we play Duke, and then we'll play the winner of Alabama, UCLA if we win, obviously, and then OSU plays Florida, and then Texas plays Stanford. And so if
Okay.
Texas and OSU both win, they'll play each other that second game. So I think that starts on Thursday. It's always frustrating to me. They started on a Thursday, even if they started on a Friday, and then OU scheduled for the 2 o'clock game.
Oh,
I'm like, can you not make it evening prime time, please?
right.
For all of us. Not that I'm going to the game, but it'd just be nice, to have it in the evening. But anyway, um, yeah, hoping they can continue their four-peat march. I was kind of hoping for a couple of teams to get upset over the weekend. One
Right.
did get
Yeah.
upset. Tennessee did.
Yeah. I
Uh,
saw some of that game. I watched
yeah.
some of that game. That
Yeah.
was good. That was Bama, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Bama was taking care of business. They were on a roll. They got that
Yeah.
momentum and they
Hmm.
just rode it and got the victory. And I watched a little bit of Texas and Texas A&M as well. I was rooting. God, it's such a
Yeah.
dirty game.
Hard.
Oh
I know.
God, I feel
I
so.
know. It was
I'm like,
hard rooting for the Aggies.
I was like, I can't. Can we
I,
just not? But I didn't want. I don't know. That's just like two evils that you're just sort of like, I don't
yeah.
know.
I was going to
I've
message you during that game and tell you to do your best A&M chant,
Yeah,
to pull them
sure.
through there.
No, man, I just wanted both the teams to lose, but I was thinking, okay, Texas had OU's number earlier the year. They need to lose. So I was like, all right, Gaggies, come on, do us a favor here. And they couldn't do it. They didn't have enough. They didn't
Yeah.
have enough.
Yeah. Yeah. They really had them on the ropes. I think it was Saturday's game. I think they had a big lead, and Texas came back, and they just let them hang around. But oh well. Hopefully, hopefully OSU can take care of them here in a few days and
Yeah,
eliminate them. That'd be nice.
right.
But I don't know if I told you the other day a little story about Patty Gasso as she was leaving one of the games.
Mm.
The game was over. She was heading out of the gates, and there was a kid walking in with his dad, and they kind of walked up to her. I think she was expecting them to say, "Hey, can I have your autograph or something to that regard?" But instead, they're like, um, "Is this where the game is?" And she kind of looked at him funny because the game was over, and come to find out they were confused. They were at the softball field thinking they were heading to the baseball field, and they're one's a little bit bigger than the other one,
Yeah.
uh, but I just found that interesting that they were confused, on what game they were going to. I think that just kind of goes to show you what house Patty has built.
Uh huh.
That the palace down there is just something else, nothing else like it in the country.
It is a nice stadium. It is very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, she's definitely a legend.
Oh, for sure. Well, one of my favorite parts is the video board. It's an Oklahoma video board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's very unique. And when I saw that being hoisted by cranes and put on, my family and I were at the Reeves Park. I was like, that is really neat. And then getting to see it in person and seeing the innings around the panhandle and everything, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty nice.
Yeah. You know, they started at Reeves Park.
Hmm?
Before Marita Hines, they played at Reeves Park. I know it's been a long time ago, but yeah,
Whoa!
that's where they started.
Wow!
I don't know the
That's
exact history of it, but I've just heard a couple people mention that on the radio. Yeah, that's where they started.
wow. They have
Yeah.
moved that up over the
Uh huh.
years.
Yeah.
Dang,
Yeah.
dang.
I know we sit here and we can brag on Patty all day long, but I don't think I'm alone. I'm alone when I say this. You know, we had our football national title in year 2000, which was 24 years ago, which is crazy. Um, so you know what Patty has done for me is she's filled that void a little bit over the last, I don't know, they've been winning championships for the last 20 years, and 7 in the last 10 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
you know, I admitted I've latched onto that, you know,
Of course.
for my titles. And I think many other people do that too. You just want something to, you know, cheer about and, you know, have the championship and until the football team gets one next year, wink, wink.
Yeah, it reminds you of the champion standard, right? That Oklahoma
Exactly.
has. So
That's right. That's right. And of course, you know, the gymnastics has been doing their thing as well. So I don't want to sit here and forget about all the other sports, but you know, what the softball team's been doing has just been something else, and hopefully they can keep it rolling.
yeah, forgot to put these tickers up.
Oh,
Throw those up
yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's all pretty.
yeah. So, yep, College World Series starts Thursday, and I know it usually lasts about a week or 10 days or something like that. They've tried to space out some of the games a little better these last couple of years, just so um, teams aren't having to play back to back, or you know they'll have an ace pitcher, and that allows their ace to get to pitch a little more and things like that.
And you mentioned their future opponents. I feel like we've got a pretty good path to take some wins and move up the ladder, move up the tournament.
Yeah,
These
that
next few series is that we've got.
yeah. One of the keys is just winning those first two games. If you can win those first two games, it kind of puts you in position to navigate through a little better. Once you get a loss, then your back's just against the wall the rest of the tournament. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
hopefully win those first two.
So let's go ahead and take a break here, and we'll move to NIL recruiting update with Ogmero.
All right, so little recruiting update this week. Not every week can be, you know, oh, we got this commit. Every single week we would have 50 commits if that was the case, right? So
Right.
uh, the offensive lineman out of Elgin, you know, down a little southwest of Lawton, ended up committing to Tennessee this week.
Mm-hmm.
I know it came down to, I want to say 2 or 3 teams. We were in the mix, Tennessee and maybe another. I can't remember who the other were, but Tennessee ended up getting his commitment this week. It sounds like it came down to NIL.
Sure.
Tennessee just offered a little more, and that's the name of the game these days, right? You just pay
Yeah.
for you you save your money for the guys you want, and so they just offered up a little more for his services, and that's just the way it is, right? So
Yeah. I don't think there's really any other drama or anything that we need to. I mean, if OU has been spot on their market analysis of players, like, and they have a track record now of when they go into a recruitment or a contract negotiation, they put up their best offer first. This is our
mhm,
offer. This is the best offer. They don't. It doesn't seem like they've got a lot of time of sitting back and forth of haggling. They just say, "Hey, this is our best offer. Take it or leave it."
mhm,
And you have kids that take that and they'll go off and shop. Chris McKellen took it out and shopped his, and they're not gonna sit there and try to haggle in a negotiation. This is their offer, and that's it. And you have to trust that the talent evaluation, the number, what OU is doing is the best for OU. And at the end of the day, they're going to find a guard, they're going to find a tackle, they're
mhm,
going to sign guys. So if Tennessee comes in and they want to pay 10, 20, 30, 40% more
mhm,
than your market analysis, okay, so be it. I mean, in OU's perspective, Tennessee overpaid. That's a win.
right.
Tennessee, if Tennessee wants to pay 40%, they got Dominic Williams. His whole recruitment was it's just all business. It was just, hey, I'm going to take these 5 visits. He got his first visit with OU. He went through his 5 visits. He went and said, how are you going to use me? what are my snaps? What position am I going to play? Because we broke it down a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
TCU played him in the wrong position. Didn't do him any favors. So he goes into this his first opportunity. Hey, I want these snaps. I want this role. I want this dollar figure. And that's it. That's what recruiting is now today. It's just free agency. There's no drama to it, in my opinion. It's just guys are making decisions best for themselves, and that's it.
Yeah. High school kids coming out, let's face it, there's a bigger gamble on these guys than there are the proven, 4-year senior.
Sure.
So it's so much easier to, um, you know, throw out an NIL deal to a 4-year proven senior than it is a freshman. It
Yeah.
just is. Um, and what's kind of funny about this is I think like, and I think I read an article on this earlier this week that if Bill Bedenbaugh is recruiting someone, other teams take notice.
Oh, of course.
You
Of
know,
course.
you have one of the best in the business, Bedenbaugh,
Mhm.
recruiting this guy. So you're like, well, okay. Other teams take notice. They're like, oh, okay. If he's willing to, recruit this guy, then why shouldn't I be pursuing him? And
Yep.
and I think that's at play here. That goes with any position.
Yep.
Just Bedenbaugh is just well respected at his. So you have whether it's Tennessee or other colleges just coming after guys, and that makes sense. I hate to even mention it, but if let's just say
It's always
we,
kind of been that way, right? I mean,
yep,
you always had the guys that were, in the industry that these coaches talk, they network, they know who are the bright minds when it comes to identifying their positions. With Mike Leach, it was quarterbacks. With Gary Patterson, it was DBs. I mean, there's just like a list of guys that are just they know how to evaluate talent, and you got programs like Tennessee who have struggled to put guys in the NFL. They recently got Darnell Wright into the NFL, but and I think maybe 2 years before that, it was a Cade Mays that went to the NFL. Besides that, those two or three guys in the last 10 years, of course they're going to be like, "What is that team doing?" You know, OU is obviously with Coach Beatenbow is an O line development at
it's a
its
fact. It's a
peak.
factory.
It's a factory,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, I think I had a stat over here somewhere.
Now you're right. Tennessee hasn't had a ton of draft picks. Alvin Kamara, of course, with the Saints or whatever. He was one of the big ones that came out. So no, it's a you know you just follow the teams that recruit well in their positions, and if you don't recruit them, then there's something wrong with you. So I get it. You know.
I was looking at just history-wise, Tennessee and Missouri and OU, and just kind of familiarizing myself with, like, the history of, like, how those 2 programs, because the ones that are, like, just nipping at the heels of OU is Tennessee and Missouri. They just are just nipping at them. They're just, following our trail, and they just keep, popping out of nowhere and trying to steal our play, take our recruitments. But Tennessee, they've had like I would say like 3 O-line drafted in the last 10 years. Missouri's had like 4 in the last 5 or 6, 4, 5, 6 in the last 10 years. And OU is sitting at like 14 or 15. I had the stat. I don't know what I did
Yeah.
with it,
No. No. No.
but
It's
it's
it's a big disparity.
huge. And so yeah, they're gonna end up following Coach Beanbo. He makes an offer to a 3-star. It's very different than another guy making a 3-star. So offer to a 3-star. So yeah, you're right. And you're gonna have to let these contract negotiations play out and just have faith that OU's again their front office knows what they're doing. And you're always gonna have these programs that are gonna try to like come in last minute and offer a deal and try to sneak in through the back door to try to sway, with 20, 30, 40% more. And some kids, they're going to have some, I say kids, but really it's a family. Sometimes, the
Mhm.
family might value that more. And you can't fault them for taking that.
No,
So,
no, not at all. No, for sure. Um, yeah, so you win some, you lose some. We get Dominic. We lose this one, but um, it's just the nature of the business. You win some, you lose some. So it's just what it is. So I think that's a good segue into our next topic, into
Vegas.
FanDuel Vegas odds.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you feeling good? Is
Oh
the
my
run
gosh.
flowing? Is the
Yeah.
run flowing? Are you ready to go off?
I won't go
So
off. Me going off's different than other people going off. So
I need you to go off, man. You gotta be like, fuck Texas. Fuck this shit. They suck. Yeah, they're at 10.5. Or
Texas higher than 9.5.
yeah, it's at 10.5.
Yeah, I can't get out of the state quick enough.
500. Here's an idea. Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
I love that clip.
Yeah,
I love that clip.
it's a great movie.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't ever encounter that in our lifetime,
No.
That's great. Great movie. I love all the lampoons. Yeah, so that Vegas clip there is leading us into our next topic. We kind of wanted to go into some of the early lines, OU betting lines for next season. I realize it's May, but you never can talk too soon about the betting lines that are out there. There's some win totals and some game spreads already out there. So yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit today. Let's see where to start. Let's go with the. I guess we'll start with the win total for OU next year. What's Vegas got us sitting at for a win total next year?
Okay. So we're taking a look at FanDuel, the FanDuel sports book. And right now we are set as of 527, 7.5.
What?
7.5.
Uh,
So that would be
a half. Oh, in that case, yeah, sounds a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically saying that we are going to go 3-5 in the SEC. And you take the early 3 victories with Houston, Tulane, Temple,
Yep, that's right.
and then
Maine
who's our?
later on. The Maine Bears are
Oh,
our
that's
other
right, Maine.
non-conference game.
I get Maine and Mercer mixed up. But
Yeah,
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 the Maine Bears non-con Saturday.
right.
So you get those 4 victories, 7.5. We're with 7.5 with Auburn, by the way, and 3-5 in the SEC. So we're going to get, according to Vegas, 3 wins out of Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Missouri, Bama, and LSU. We're going to, essentially with that line, right? They're saying we're not participating in Championship November, and we're certainly not ever sniffing a playoff bid. And we're going to end up playing in the Gator Bowl, or actually the Cheez-It Bowl, if we're lucky,
Right.
or the AutoZone Bowl. There's a great AutoZone Bowl, so we're looking at like a Cheez-It and an AutoZone.
Ooh,
Yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
yeah,
So they're actually saying 4 or 5 losses, right? With that number
yeah. They're
in
saying
theory.
5 losses.
5. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say that would be a disastrous season, but that would not be a. I mean, it would be in our minds right now, considering where we're at, right? So
yeah,
we've been building not to lose 5 games. That's not the plan. You know, uh, I can what's weird, and we'll get into the other teams here in a second, but I just can't. Yeah, I just can't get my head wrapped around that one. I realize we're moving to the SEC, but still, you know, we're not Iowa State moving to the SEC. You know,
no,
there is a winning tradition here. We are a good football team,
yeah,
and we are trending in the right direction. We're recruiting better. Brent Venables, in his third year, will be just fine. I'm not. Yeah, I would like to lay a little bit of money on that one, but that's not the one I would put most of my money on. But um, I would definitely bet against that. No, I would take the over on that one. I looked at some stats the other day on. I just looked at Kirby Smart, the GOAT, Saban, and Dabo Sweeney on, you know, their first 3 or 4 years, and their first 2 years weren't great.
Mm-mm.
I think somebody's might have been. I think it might have been Saban might have had a really good second year, but it's taken each one of those anywhere from 2 to 4 years, you know, to start competing for championships. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Brent makes that big leap this year and has us competing for at least in the conversation for a
right.
conference championship. And of course, if we're in the conversation for that, we're talking potentially playoffs. But yeah, that's just that number, that 7.5. Yeah, that's just kind of shocking to me.
It's 7.5. I would find that pretty disastrous.
Yeah.
7-5. I don't think there's enough couches in Norman to burn if we had a 7-5 record. I think every dumpster would be on fire. We would be so mad. There would be a huge, like, donors would be upset. The big donors, the yacht club donors, like the NIL collectives. There would be so much drama. 7-5, 3 years in the making, and the knowing what we have on defense and what we have at quarterback. 7.5 would be not good. 7.5,
Yeah.
7 wins would the under on that would be pretty bad. You would start to hear people,
Yeah.
talking of names to get
Yeah.
fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would probably be leading that charge too, just so we're honest. I
Yeah.
would be like, this ain't working, because I'm all bored of 3 years is a good number to
Mhm.
give a coach enough time, and knowing what he inherited from Alex Grinch on defense. Barf. Oh my God. Poor kids weren't coached at all. You know, I mean, he almost earns himself a fourth year because of that. But 7 wins ain't gonna do it. Like this, and if you really believe that OU is a good team, and if you believe in how passionate and how genuine Brent Venables is when he says development, he ain't getting 7 wins next year.
No.
That ain't happening, man. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. And if it did happen, then you would be like, okay, something really bad happened. You know,
Right.
we lost our starting quarterback, our middle linebacker,
Sure.
you just start naming half a dozen injuries.
Sure.
You know, that's when you're like, oh, okay, then maybe.
If
But
there's something to explain it,
exactly.
Arnold tears his ACL and never, any of that, like any of the
Hmm.
bad stuff, the stuff that's not really in your control happens,
Hmm.
then that explains it. But if they don't calculate that. Vegas doesn't go, oh yeah, Oklahoma might get some injuries and the ball might bounce to their opponents better. No, they're looking straight, like, let's look at the talent and look at like what's done in the past, and they try to put a number out there. But this is different. You got OU and Texas joining the fray now, and you've got a huge 2024 draft class. That NFL draft class was massive, folks. Like, it was littered with talent for 3 rounds, led by the SEC. They sent a bunch of dudes. They don't know what teams are now. And I feel like with the free agency, now with the portal, players changing teams, like, this is a huge guess. And I think 7.5 for OU. I try not to be a homer, but we've watched 3 years of them getting better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We've got the best defense we've had in 20 years, and they're only going to get better. So,
yeah. And yeah, we win. You already kind of said it. We win our 4 non-conference games. And then we beat South Carolina and we beat Auburn like we're supposed to. We're sitting at 6 wins. And that number right there says we're going to be lucky to win 2 more.
yes.
No.
No, it's not.
No, I don't
South
understand.
Carolina is a bad team. I
Yeah,
love
so-
Shane Beamer, but the Gamecocks are not good. Like, they're not good. And Auburn, Hugh Freeze is not going to outcoach Brent Venables. Like, that's not going to happen. So those two in, right? So like you said, that's 6.
Mhm.
And we're going to be able to pull just 1 more.
Yeah.
Just that's it, and we're just going to lose the rest.
Right.
That's not happening.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. There's a chance, looking at our schedule, if we win 2 games that are winnable games, we start off 6-0, and that's with wins over Tennessee and Texas. And
yeah,
and the harder of those 2 games might be Tennessee this year, and it's at home. So I would, yeah. Those
we're gonna do, when we get closer to the beginning of the season, I will show you why we should be worried about Tennessee. Tennessee, out of all these teams that are on here that scare me, it's actually them. The Volunteers, yes, they are breaking a new 5-star quarterback just like us, and they've got receivers just like us. They're not on a bunch of lists. They're good. They're a good receiving core. They run the purest form of that Baylor offensive system. It's pure. It is absolutely exactly what Bryles ran back in Baylor, and Heupel has embraced it, and he's only built on it. Yes, he's lost to Georgia. A lot of people have lost to Georgia. Georgia has played a different game plan on them every single time. Josh has been out coached by Georgia, right? Georgia is the cream of the crop, elite. Kirby Smart is awesome, but that team is sneaky good, and to break them off on the first conference game is massive. We got to get that win. That's a huge win. But
Yeah.
we'll look at that when we get to, like, I don't know, maybe Tennessee week, or maybe one of those like non-con weeks. We can look at Tennessee.
Yeah. I do like the fact that we have seen a version of that Brile system in practice for the last couple of years. So,
sure,
that's good.
Yeah.
And so maybe, Heupel doesn't get to see this Luttrell version, when we play them. So hopefully we can out coach him a little bit on that side of the ball.
So I'm going to pull this up, because this is kind of still in our 7.5 talk. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
We did not talk about this at all, but I have an article here from about 10 years ago.
Ooh.
This is 10 years ago. Got an article here of a team that was set with a Vegas 7.5. Trust me, this all connects. Their schedule Florida, Arkansas, Ole Miss, LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State, Alabama, Missouri. Pretty similar. Then you've got Louisiana Tech, SMU, South Carolina State, and Sam Houston State. So 4 teams that were your kind of your garbage, right? Your 4 non-cons. But you got a pretty decent slate here. Alabama, Missouri, LSU, Ole Miss, Arkansas. I mean, that's very comparable. Now, this is 10 years ago, but I'm just saying, like, this is what your schedule you're looking at. This was a team moving to the SEC. Moving to the SEC. And let me read you some of these headlines, right?
That narrows it down to 2 teams.
Pretty much, yeah. This team is replacing their senior quarterback that threw a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. Who's going to be, like, how are they going to replace that? How are they going to replace that production at quarterback? How are they going to do it? Defense, they're replacing a whole coordinator, and they graduated a bunch of people. They got one really good player on the defensive line, an edge. That's a little bit different. But, they've lost a coordinator. They graduated guys. They're losing starters on defense. Here's some of the headline. I mean, some of the stuff. Like, how are they going to be successful? How are they going to deal with the depth? How are they going to do this in the transition period? How are they going to fit? Are the coaches going to be good enough? They've got, a lot more talk here. But, this article goes on and on about the same exact questions that OU is dealing with. What's a coordinator going to be like? What's the depth going to be like? How's the quarterback going to be like? Like, what are we looking at? There's a lot of people in the media that are taking the same headlines that they've ran before, and they're just saying the same stuff in the summer of the same year. And at this time, this article was mid-May. I'm looking. It's written.
It's eerily similar. Yeah,
it's written in May, and the Vegas odds are 7.5. The year before, they went 7-6 in the Big 12.
So we're talking about A&M, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But listen how this is wild. So in 2012, when they jumped into the SEC, they had a redshirt freshman named Johnny Manziel.
Mm-hmm.
And they went 11-2. After being 7.5, Vegas, right? They went 11-2. They ended up beating Alabama, who won the championship before and won the championship that year. I mean, it's kind of like 7.5.
Right. Mm-hmm.
7.5. I mean, Vegas doesn't know how it really is going to play out. They really don't. And then people in the media don't know how it's going to play out. The media is just regurgitating kind of the same headlines, the same rhetoric, the same all of it. Here's a quote from Jake Crane, who's got his own little podcast, and he went on about the Sooners, and he said, quote, 8-4, in my opinion, is right on a button. It's about where I'd have it. I'm going to tell you, those people out in Vegas, they're not wrong often. They're going to be somewhere around, and if over and under at most places is 6.5, because it gone up a bit, so now it's at 7.5, I think getting 8-4 is probably generous. Reality of it is, your ass is probably going 8-4, because the game is played on the field by 22 guys at a time. And unless they have a lot of guys punch above their weight consistently and catch a couple of breaks injury-wise and bouncing the ball, it's going to be tough to get past that 8.
Yeah, that guy apparently didn't see your article that you quoted about.
No, I mean,
Vegas is wrong. Here, they build casinos because they're right 70% of the time. That builds casinos. The other 30%, they're wrong. And that's where we lie, is in that 30%, in my opinion. I think they're way off on this. I think, we'll see where this spread is August, late August. We kind of need to revisit this, see where the number of games are. But I'd be surprised if it stayed at 7.5. To be honest with you,
I would love it.
They're probably just trying to get some. There's a lot. They want to get some early money on OU, so and the
Maybe.
over, So
What just say, seeing this quote, I mean, I to say that it's impossible, that's bullshit.
yeah,
Like it can happen. You're not OU having the quarterback, having the defense. Look at the coaching staff. Every damn position coach was offered a job by somebody, or at least it was like number one on the list. Ohio State tried to take DeMarco.
Yeah.
LSU tried to take Todd Bates.
Bama
Alabama
came after Beatonbow.
Yes. I mean, like literally every damn position. You think that's because they're not doing things the right way?
Yeah.
And you give them 7.5, that coaching staff, that team of talent. Whew, okay. And to say that, your reality is your ass is probably going 8-4. Okay. That they're gonna have to consistently punch above their weight. This team is talented enough to win 9-3 with that schedule, even with that schedule.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's where I've been stuck on them the whole time is 9-3 because if they can go, 5-3 with that schedule this year, I mean, to me that's a win. They're and they'll be in the consideration for playoffs if they go 9-3.
Oh, sure.
Depending on who those 3 losses are, but they'll definitely be in the conversation.
You get 5 victories in the SEC with that schedule, and what we're saying with that 5-3 or 9-3 record is that we're competing in championship November. We are actively competing. We're competition of actually trying to earn our way into the SEC championship and a playoff bid. Because 8-4 ain't gonna do it, and 7-5 ain't gonna do it. So we're saying we're gonna be competing, and this team with the coaching staff and the players is more than capable of going 9-3 and competing in November.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in agreement. And I think it's probably a good segue. Should we look at the other teams and their win totals for this coming season, so we can draw some comparisons here?
Yeah. So the other teams' win totals. I got it. There we go. I'm gonna move it in front of me. Georgia's at 10.5, expected. Texas is at 10.5. Again, we're looking at FanDuel Sportsbook, everybody. Georgia is 10.5. Texas is 10.5.
We need sports gambling in Oklahoma.
I like Texas's O-line. The O-line for Texas is really good. Like their O-line is good. Sewers should be good if you're looking at someone who's getting better and better each year. I mean, he's kind of rode the coattails of awesome receivers. I Mitchell and Xavier Worthy were really good. Like, I do a little bit of KC film for Xavier Worthy for other people, and Worthy, I mean, he was running wild. He was running wild free. I mean, he created separation all the time. There was actually a lot of throws that Sewers had. He was just throwing at the feet or throwing it to the stands. It just looked weird.
Yeah.
But Texas at 10.5, I feel like it's maybe a game generous, but
well, they play Georgia, so to me that's a loss. I don't even care where it's played. And so you're telling me that's their only blemish? They lose 2 minimum, in my opinion.
And then after those 2, again, we're looking at FanDuel Sportsbook. We've got 5 teams at 9.5 with Alabama, LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
We play all 5 of those teams.
Yeah, something's got to give.
Yeah, something's got to give. So all those teams are at 9.5. Is that what you said? All 5 of those teams?
All 5. Yep.
Yeah. What's funny is if we beat Tennessee, if we beat either an Ole Miss or a Missouri, you can like switch us with those teams. Like all of a sudden we're at 9.5. They might fall to 8.5 or something, but all it's going to take is a couple of surprise wins by us to jump into that 9.5 group. It sounds like Vegas is just in this wait and see mode on us. You know, they're not on Texas because ironically, we have one of the toughest schedules in the country. They have one of the easiest SEC
Right.
schedules that I've ever seen, which is kind of weird, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a lot to give there. I mean, I just don't see 5 teams, these 5 going 9 wins. I just don't. All 5 of them, that's not going to happen. There's going to be at least out of these 5, 3 teams disappoint. LSU, Missouri, and Ole Miss are, I think, of the 3 that are going to be disappointing. But yeah,
if we can protect our home field, which I realize that's going to be hard to do because of course we have Alabama and Tennessee coming to town, but protect our home field and then just go win a couple of games on the road. We're still sitting at that 9-win mark that we keep coming back to.
Yep.
So I like the bulletin board material. You know, the 7.5 wins. Just keep throwing stuff out there. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Brent has his team steered in the right direction. I'm not worried about a line at this point, but I sure wouldn't mind driving up to Kansas and putting a little money on the over.
Right.
So hopefully that line sits there for another month or so.
Yeah. I'm making my way to Kansas City, man. I'll make sure I'm going to lock this down. I'll take the over on the 7.5 for sure.
Yeah.
Ending with the 7.5. Let's look at the win totals of 7.5. Let's look at the games that we know of today that we have odds on. And I know you've got a few of them pulled up, or the ones that we've got pulled up that we can.
Yeah.
What do you got there in front of you?
So Temple of course we're favored by 39.5, and then Tulane and Houston I do not have, but we can just assume we're favored. And then the 4th game of the year, Tennessee, we're actually a 3.5 point favorite according to BetMGM. So they have us favored at home against the almighty Volunteers that Rob is jumping on the bandwagon and taking to the title game.
Fighting Heupels.
And then the Auburn game right after that, they have us as a 2.5 favorite on the road.
Okay.
And then Texas, game 6, 9.5 point favorite for Texas. This makes me lose my mind. I literally want to stop our podcast, hop in my car, drive to Kansas, drop $500. And this is someone that doesn't bet. I don't bet.
You don't.
I am not a gambler.
Don't either. But
what? Like, really? Okay. So we just beat them in a year we weren't supposed to beat them. Okay.
Right.
And now their team, which lost guys to the NFL, I want to say at least probably half a dozen guys in the first few rounds. I'm guessing. I don't know the numbers, but we
All
know,
the best players. I mean, you had
the
Worthy first round.
the receivers, the defensive
Yeah.
tackles, just all those
Defense
guys.
Yep.
They're having to replace all that. Granted, we have a a sophomore quarterback coming in, but his ceiling's been documented. It's higher than Gabriel's. Our defense is year 3 with Venables, bringing back Bowman, Stutzman, Terry, all these guys, and the defense had a pretty decent showing in the Cotton Bowl last year. And you're saying we're going to go down there and lose by 10 points? Yeah, I don't know what this guy was smoking the day he made this line, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I usually can take my glasses off and try to look at things and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. This doesn't make sense.
Their secondary, who they bring everybody back, sucks. The coaches are terrible. The players are not very good. They're having to reload. Of course, they went and got Lole, right? They needed help. And, they're banking on, I forgot the edge that they got. That's really good. They're banking on a transfer in Isaiah Bond for receiving group. They're hoping that DeAndre Moore can be a great receiver. They've got really good running backs. They got a really good O-line. They got a quarterback that's like iffy. I mean, he has great games when he's got great receivers, and does he take the step forward? But you're telling me that OU is going to lose a game by more than 9.5 points from Texas?
No.
No way. I'm not taking the over on that. Give me the under.
No, there's maybe a couple of other games on OU's schedule that you could talk me into that more than that one.
Yeah,
like if you said if they're gonna lose by 10 points to Ole Miss, you might be able to talk me into that before you talk me into them losing to Texas by 10.
So looking at the numbers that we have in front of us, they have Texas plus 9.5. That's the greatest line disparity, right? I mean, Ole Miss comes in second at 6.5.
Right.
So they're saying Texas is by far and away the better team. We're going to give you 9.5 to set a line. And they haven't beat us by more than 9.5 points since 2013. If you took away our game a couple years ago where Braden Willis was our quarterback. So yeah, of course. Sure. Yeah, okay. So you got to go back 10 years without a tight end at a quarterback for you to beat us by 10 points. Cool. Let's go let's go get that money on there, man. Let's make some coin. I feel like they're giving it away.
I don't understand. I'm gonna hang up it's all your show. The rest, I'm driving to Kansas. I'll be back here in a few hours.
There's our live show right there.
Yeah.
You in the car.
I'm walking up to a window. Yes.
That's our mobile live show. Your camera's gonna be sitting there on the dash, like a dad with this, and you're gonna be driving. You're just gonna be talking. I'm almost there, man.
Oh,
I'll be Venmoing you money. Well, here, take my money.
And
yeah, 9.5 is a lot. That's a lot. I feel like
that's a game that I normally wouldn't want to bet on at all any given year, just because of it is what it is. It's you just don't know what's going to show up. But my gosh, that's
if this
crazy.
If this was like a 4.5 plus 4 plus 3, I'd be like, ugh, I don't want to touch that. But you're saying plus 9.5? Holy crap! Okay, cool. Check. Put that on the list. Whew. So if they got OU favored through the non-cons and Tennessee and Auburn, right? That's our first 6 games we're favored. 5, sorry, 5.
Yeah, yeah.
First 5 games OU's favored.
And then
And they
we'll
had the
assume
line. So, yeah,
we'll
go ahead.
assume South Carolina. We'll assume Maine on top of
Right.
those two.
So we're assuming that Maine and South Carolina were favored. They're expecting us to go 2-5 in the back end of the year and then drop 3 in a row in November? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't understand.
That makes no freaking sense, man.
No, not at all.
That's
2 and
what Vegas
5.
is saying.
2
They're
and
they're
5.
saying 7.5 for the year. We're gonna favor
Mm.
you the first 5 games, and then you're gonna drop 2 and the 5 in the back half of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, there might be some money. There might be money here. I don't know where it's at. I'm not an expert. I don't know. Brad's not an expert. We're not saying to go gamble.
Mm-mm.
Gamble responsibility.
Right.
But that does not sound right at all. That make that 2.5 drop 3 in a row in November. Holy
Yeah. Well, we got
wow.
Maine smashed in there, so we'll win 1 out of 4. One of those last 4, according to these odds here. Yeah.
No way. No way.
I'm
Get
not
the
buying it.
F out of here, man. No way. Get out of here. That's
Yeah.
BS.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like it. This can be 2000 all over again.
I like it too. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of, you got to, I mean, there's some similarities there too. You know, the offensive line, that 2000s OU O line, there wasn't any real household names on it. There wasn't any guys that got drafted. You know what they were? Senior dudes that played a lot of football. And that's something that we'll get into next episode, and we'll explain to you why some of the return percentage, return production by Bill Connolly, the SP plus ESPN, OU is dead last in the SEC in return production. Blah, blah, blah. Those numbers are garbage because it doesn't take into effect the transfer portal and all the guys we brought in that have played a lot of football. So, yeah, the OU line, OU quarterback, OU defense in 2000 is all pretty similar to what we got in 2000. And I got a question for you. Knowing what you know now that we've walked through it, 7.5 is the line for the win total. We're favored the first 5 games, and they're expecting OU to go 2-5 the last 7 and drop 3 in a row. Is OU disrespected?
Yes. Yeah, I don't anyone that knows anything about this particular OU football team, OU's getting slighted or not respected here. And there's people just using the excuse as they're moving to the SEC is it's just an excuse to rank them low and overlook them and everything else. And I still say that's fine. Just add to the bulletin board. You're going to be wrong, like every other casino that's out there.
Yep.
But yeah, I can't see it. I can't see 7-5. Without Brent being on the hot seat. I know you mentioned that earlier. Can't see a scenario as we sit here on late May where that's going to pan out.
Right. And you mentioned bulletin board material. We didn't even talk about the Fornelli's article on head coaches in the where they ranked. He ranked BV 34th.
34th.
Hugh Freeze, Mr. Cheater himself, was
Oh
ranked
my
above
gosh.
him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't.
we don't have to go into it because it's all baloney. It's crap.
Mm-hmm.
If Tom Fornelli has a Reddit page dedicated to people who track all his predictions, and I'll just say he's on the losing side quite a bit, and people know and keep track of it, and it's kind of funny. So if you guys want to go and find the Reddit, just search Tom Fornelli prediction stuff, and you'll have to do maybe a little bit of digging and find it, but you'll find it. And people from all fan bases, not just OU. I don't even think OU's even in there. And they just track all his stuff. And they keep, hey, Virginia Tech is going to win the ACC this year. And all this stuff. I mean, it's just out there.
So it sounds like we want him to pick us to lose.
Sure. Yeah.
Given his track record. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I don't know if it's one of those situations where it's like, is he really smart or is he really stupid? If he's really smart, he put him there on purpose at 34th, knowing that OU fans are crazy and they're going to click. Or he's stupid and he forgot him on the list and was like, forgot about that guy. Here, I'll just scribble him in here. Oh, well, whatever. And just turn it in because he's a half-ass writer. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, and I know these lines are early, but I'm surprised at where they're starting. I just can't see it.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of concludes our run through of the Vegas odds currently in May. And we'll revisit this later. Like Brad said, we'll look at the line as it gets after fall camp and see where the money's flowing. But you can guarantee that if the line moves to 8.5, Brad and I probably help move it to 8.5 because we're gonna make sure to do our part.
Yeah, exactly. Make a good investment this year.
Yep. You want to close us out?
Yeah. So thanks for listening again. Appreciate all the listeners and viewers out there. It is Memorial Weekend, so just remember those that served and died for us. Just remember them on this weekend, and reach out to family members and things like that. So please follow us. You can see down at the bottom, got the scroll down there, championstandard.com or at C Standard. Okay, you can see all those down there at the bottom. I don't have to. But yeah, appreciate everyone listening. Got another big show coming probably here another week or two. So looking forward to that. Appreciate it as always, Rob. Until next time, everyone, Boomer Sooner.